Dr. Cornel West just gave Joe Biden a whole lot more to worry about. See, Dr. West just appeared on The Breakfast Club where he was totally relaxed. A stark contrast to how it was when Joe Biden was on the show. Not running from questions, not ducking and dodging, and definitely not saying something stupid like, if you don't vote for Cornel West, you ain't black. What Dr. West did on that show is he put on a clinic of how it's done. Don't get me wrong, it's not like Joe Biden wasn't in trouble before this. He was in trouble before this because, well, if you look at the polling, the new Siena poll showed that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are knotted up at 43%, with the rest of the votes being undecided. It's crazy. So we're talking about compounding problems that Joe Biden has. He is unable to compete against Trump decisively, even without Cornel West being present. But the shellacking that Cornel West has gave Joe Biden on The Breakfast Club, I had to boil it down to like 5 things. 5 things that Dr. Cornel West said that landed on the Democratic Party and on Joe Biden himself. I could have went to 10, but I chose the top 5 just not to bore you. Number 5, Dr. Cornel West talked about black voters not having any good options. Dr. West pointed out that the Democrats look at black Americans and says, why aren't you going to vote for me? I haven't done anything about mass incarceration, but why aren't you going to vote for me? 39% of black children live in poverty, and the Democratic Party hasn't meaningfully addressed it, but why aren't you going to vote for me? You know the Republicans are worse. See, this is what's on the minds of all black Americans, or the majority of black Americans. They understand that we are between a rock and a hard place. Dr. West is unafraid to say it out loud, to say it on the largest stages. We are between a rock and a hard place as black Americans. Number 4, Dr. West didn't run away from tough questions. When a co-host asked Dr. West, what about Bernie Sanders? I know you're good friends with Bernie. Why did Bernie Sanders endorse Joe Biden so quickly without having any leverage? It would appear that he's leverageless, but he still endorsed Joe Biden, as did AOC. And Cornel West didn't shy away from the question. He said, well, I got great love for Bernie Sanders, but we disagree fundamentally on a number of things, and this is just one of them. He said that Bernie Sanders was preoccupied with fearing fascism, neo-fascism. But the only problem with that is, if you lie and say that Joe Biden's doing a great job when he's not doing a great job, in the material condition of people around in America, all the citizens in America who feel the pain of a good job not being done, then you are basically guaranteeing the rise of neo-fascism. You are creating neo-fascism because eventually people go, hey, you keep telling me that this guy is great, but he's not great, and my life is getting more ungreat and ungreat and ungreat, and now I'm willing to do anything, which is turn to a strong man and someone even worse than Trump, if that's available. And that's what the problem is. That is something that you create by lying and denying that Joe Biden is this actual solution to problems when he's not. Dr. Cornel West's ability to lay it flat and not run from tough questions. He didn't throw Bernie Sanders under the bus, but he didn't shy away from criticizing him for what he felt was the wrong choice. Of course, Dr. West feels like Bernie Sanders should endorse him. And not because he endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016. This ain't a tit for tat, you owe me game. This is the truth. Number 3, West makes a good argument for why we need serious changes and not window dressing changes. Once again, West pointed out how people are so content to say that Joe Biden's doing a great job, but as they walk out, if you walk outside of the studio, and you'll see homeless people all over the streets. How is this a good job? We have children that we know are not getting what they ought to get as children to grow up with. How is this a good job? How is this the best that we can do? We have workers, underpaid, unhappy, underpaid, in dead-end jobs or looking for better jobs and can't find them. And you're telling me Joe Biden is the best we can do. Someone's lying. And if you're going to tell the world that Joe Biden's the best you can do just to win, Well, that's a false sell of goods for the people. We need serious changes for a number of reasons, but the main reason is because it ain't working the way it is. And it's not working for a lot of Americans, particularly Black Americans. Number 2, Dr. Cornel West points out that there is a lot of Afropasticism. Black folks being pessimistic about politics. And instead of pushing back and saying, why are you pessimistic about politics? Dr. West embraces it. He acknowledges the reality that, yeah, makes sense. You have every reason in the world to be pessimistic about the options that we have on the table and about what's going on politically in this country and how that impacts your life. You have to almost be blind, walking through the world blind and devoid of smell, taste, anything, to not recognize that things are not going well for us, particularly. Dr. West is keeping it plain and simple for Black folks. Yeah, he's not making you maneuver around a bunch of political talk that's meant to confuse you, word salad that's meant to confuse you, jargon that's meant to confuse you, make you tired of listening and just go, okay, when is this diatribe of nonsense that doesn't relate to my real life going to end? Now, see, Dr. Cornel West gives it to you straight, and he gives it to straight to Black people in a way that they can understand. Dr. West was talking not like a politician, but like a brother, like a friend, like a neighbor. And that's because Dr. West is not a politician, which we know goes over really well nowadays as people are more and more tired of politics as usual. People are moving beyond this, oh, it's got to look this way, and you got to have the shirt and the tie and the tight, crisp white shirt, and you got to wear the gray suit or the blue suit, and you got to do the thing. No, Dr. West is talking nuts and bolts of what's happening in real people's lives. And that's something that's unique, and it's great for Black America to see it, and they will embrace it. And that's the fear the Democrats have, and they should be afraid of it. I don't want to misquote Dr. West, but let me try to get this right. Dr. West says something to the effect of, neither party is concerned with defending Black people. For God's sake, if you look down from the heavens, down to the earth, and you saw Black people in America, you saw the condition that we're in, you would never consider, you'd never believe that there was a party committed to helping those people. No matter how many Black people they send out to tell you we're doing the best we can, we're working really hard, no matter how many Congressional Black Caucus members came out to tell you water ain't wet, grass ain't green, and dogs with teeth don't bite. Dr. West is willing to quote statistics that matter to people, like 45,000 people are homeless in Los Angeles, and 40% of those people are Black. And Los Angeles only has 9% of Black population. So if you got 9% of the population Black, but 40% of the homeless population are Black, what does that tell you? We got systemic racism. Then he called out Joe Biden and Kamala and Clyburn by name and said, how you gonna say we don't have systemic racism? What's this? See, that's the type of plain speaking that Black people will relate to. They may be pessimistic, but that makes one's ears perk up because that's truth. And number 1, the man, he just makes sense. When Dr. West responded to the criticism that he, little old Cornel West, is going to be the person who can decide the whole election, he spoke back. He said, me, 3 months ago, I was sitting home listening to Aretha, and nobody cared what I was doing. No one paid me any attention, and now suddenly, I control the whole election. It's all on me. Wow, that's crazy. Now that means that the Democratic Party's not doing their job, because there's no way, with all the resources that the Democratic Party has, including Joe Biden being president, including control of the House, should they be talking about how, oh my God, Dr. Cornel West could take the country in the wrong direction. That's crazy talk. Just like it's crazy talk that a senator from West Virginia can stop voting rights for Black people in America from going through. But Joe Biden let that happen. But when Joe Biden wanted his pipeline done, and when Joe Biden wanted the debt ceiling increased, he was able to negotiate that with Joe Manchin. But he just couldn't negotiate voting rights. Ugh. Couldn't negotiate that voting rights, though. Couldn't get that done for you blacks, but I'm going to get this done for us, and I'm going to get this done for America, but I'm not going to get that done for you. Black Americans died to have that Voting Rights Act. And you let it slip away? Dr. West is comfortable saying the tough parts out loud, saying the real parts out loud. In fact, he revels in it because he knows that's part of his responsibility. Not to call it out, but to call it straight and to tell the truth. That's the Negro prophetic tradition. Truth telling. Without that, where are black people going to be? It's what sustained us this far. See, that's the power of Dr. Cornel West. Don't listen to what they tell you. It's not that he's pulling votes. It's that there are votes to be pulled. And here goes the bonus. And this may be, actually, the biggest reason of all. Dr. Cornel West is an existential threat to the Democratic Party because Dr. Cornel West is real. And Dr. Cornel West not only says things like this, but he means these things when he says them. He said, I will not sell black people out. You'd have to put me in the grave before I sell out black people. I'm not going to sell out my mama, and I'm not going to sell out my daddy. You got to put me in the grave first. This is not the type of talk you will ever hear coming out of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Tim Scott or Vivek Ramaswamy or Marianne Williamson or RFK Jr. God bless them. But that's not the type of talk you're going to hear out of them. See, this is not that phony Joe Biden, I got your back nonsense that disappears when you open the wrapper, turns into vapor and it floats into the sky. No, this is that real stuff. This is that real food for thought. This is that true nourishment of the black soul that we talk about, that we listen, that we hear when Fannie Lou Hamer is speaking, when Malcolm X is speaking, when MLK is speaking, when MLK is saying, we coming to Washington and we coming for our check. This is realness. So yes, this is very dangerous to the Democratic Party. It's dangerous to the Democratic regime because it resonates with black people in a way that all that nonsense, all that foolery, all of those mirrors, smoke and mirrors just do not. Dr. West on the Breakfast Club spoke the tone and the tenor that is substantive, that will reverberate from millennials to Gen Xers and even some boomers, from women, men, LGBTQ, all folks, from all walks of life, but particularly black folks who recognize that Dr. West is a rare bird. And yes, he's a problem in the best sense of the word. I'm sure the Democratic Party will work overtime to smear Dr. West, but at the end of the day, those smears and anything they uncover about Dr. West will only continue to humanize him more. I don't know if you noticed, but we got a guy running on the Republican side who has 25 allegations of sexual assault, rape, and other types of charges, and he right now is tied with Biden. I don't know if you know or not, but our president, right now, our sitting president, had his hands on every racist piece of law and order, tough on crime, hurt the blacks legislation that was passed in the last 50 years. And he was proud of it. He stuck his chest out and said he did it, and he'd do it again. I don't think there's anything you could uncover or they could smear on Dr. Cornel West that will have any real impact. So yes, Dr. Cornel West is a threat, but the only people that should be threatened are the keepers of the status quo who want to keep things the way they are. My name is Tim Black. Subscribe to Tim's Black Table right here and become a member of the Tim Black Show. And like I always say, don't you let nobody take your cornbread. We are the Wolf Pack.